Hi guys, and welcome to the Stephen King Sematary Club. Hi guys, we are talking about Misery, and I will confess, there we go, Misery is not one of my favorites. I find it to be slightly uncomfortable to read it because it's so claustrophobic. There are basically only two characters in this, and the feeling of being trapped and just helpless. I don't enjoy it as a full-length book, but a lot of people love it. I believe that it was intended to be a Bachman book, but Stephen King was outed as Bachman before it was published. So we start out with the chapter Annie. We have confusion, pain, darkness to a light haze. The main character is obviously coming out of some kind of unconsciousness or a dream. We're not exactly sure what's happening. There's pain. There's a lot of pain. There was a description of CPR that is just so accurate because I've never experienced either giving or receiving CPR, and it seems like indeed a terrible raping, like someone's forcing their breath into your mouth against your will. You didn't ask for it. I don't know, it does seem very much a violation of personal space, all that. Quote, "The pain only appeared to come and go. The pain was like the piling, sometimes covered and sometimes visible, but always there." Page 5. So the main character has this memory of a creepy old piling that is visible during low tide, covered during high tide, and the process, it's always there, it's always waiting to reappear, it's lurking, and he compares his pain to that. So obviously he is in a great deal of pain and something is taking it away or making it lessen. So we get a huge chunk of info in this first chapter. We find out that the main character is Paul Sheldon. The woman who is involved in the story too is Annie Wilkes. They're in Sidewinder, Colorado. She's his #1 fan. Already we have a reference to other Stephen King works. Sidewinder is referenced in The Shining. It's the closest town. It's where Wendy was going to take Danny. They were going to go down to Sidewinder and get help. So the town of Sidewinder has a connection to The Shining. So we find out, as Paul finds out, quote, "He discovered 3 things almost simultaneously about 10 days after having emerged from the dark cloud. The first was that Annie Wilkes had a great deal of Novril. She had, in fact, a great many drugs of all kinds. The second was that he was hooked on Novril. The third was that Annie Wilkes was dangerously crazy." Page 8. So the true horror of his situation is now known. He is crippled, he's helpless. He is missing. He's a famous writer, but no one knows he's missing, so no one is thinking to look for him. Or if they are thinking of looking for him, they don't know where he was. He was driving alone. He had just finished working on a manuscript, and he's just in a snowstorm. He disappeared. So Annie is keeping him in a secluded place. She's prone to violent outbursts and moments of blankness. So he's in bed trying to assess her character. It's difficult because if he makes her mad, she flies into a rage and she will hurt him or embarrass him. There was a scene where she got so mad that she threw his soup bowl into the wall, made a huge mess. She blames it on him. So then she withholds pain medication until she cleans it up, and then the sadistic part of her decides not only is she going to make him wait for the pain meds, but once it's time to give him the pain meds, she makes him chase it down with the soapy water that she had used to clean up the soup. So she has a vicious streak where she wants to embarrass and lord things over her idol. I mean, she loves him. She is the number one fan, as she says. We find the extra precarious nature of his situation is he has been writing books and they've done very well, and the main character's name is Misery, and he doesn't like writing these books, but they make him money, and so it's going to afford him the chance to write what he really wants to write, and he has killed Misery off and is venturing into the new direction. So Annie is currently reading the book where he kills Misery off. She has named her pig Misery. She is obsessed. She is not going to take this news well, and he's at her mercy at the moment. So it just becomes even more dire. And he finds out that she is close to finishing this book. Something that I really love is he was driving home through the snowstorm, and he avoided going through the Eisenhower Tunnel, which is a reference to the Stand. The Stand is where the trash can man had an uncomfortable experience in the Eisenhower Tunnel. It was really creepy, and so just the fact that he found it to be something that made him uncomfortable and he wanted to avoid it is a callback to the Stand. So Paul has his new manuscript. Annie finds it, she starts reading it, she doesn't like it. Paul realizes he doesn't have any other copies of this, and she doesn't like it, so something bad is going to happen to this manuscript. And it's just so cringe, because this whole situation is just so awful. Like, knowing that you have no recourse, you're at the mercy of a crazy person. It's just terrifying on a very realistic level. Like, there is no supernatural element to this. It's all just evil human nature. So once Annie finds out that Misery has bitten the dust, so to speak, she throws a fit, she rages out, and she locks Paul in this room, leaves for 51 hours. Now she's giving him food, she's giving him water, medicine, all this stuff, and she just takes off. Paul doesn't know where she's going. She is, leaving him to the elements, as it were. She comes back, she makes him burn the manuscript, which we knew was coming. Like, there's no way she's going to let him have this book, and he has to pay for what he did to Misery. So this is just an exercise in terrorizing and humiliating a person. She makes him light the book on fire. She won't do it. She wants him to do it of his own accord, even though it's coercion and he didn't want to do that. He's only doing it because he's terrified of her. So Annie purchases a wheelchair and a typewriter and a whole bunch of paper for Paul so that he can write a new Misery book. And this is going to be Annie's copy. This is her consolation prize. She will have something that no one else has because stuff like that is important to her. So it's going to be Misery's Return. He objects to the paper that she bought because it smears. And so she goes into another rage. She hits him on the kneecap. I mean, his legs are just totally wrecked from this car accident he had. And she smashes his kneecap. Smashes him. Like, she is psycho. Then she leaves again to get more paper. So this time, Paul is more resourceful. He ends up escaping his room using a bobby pin. He's in the wheelchair. He goes through the door, but he barely fits with the wheelchair. Goes to the bathroom. He finds a whole bunch of medicine just stashed around, like all these samples. So we're wondering how she gets these samples, but she has a whole bunch of medicine, shit ton of medicine. And he steals some. He takes some. He then tries to use the phone, but the phone does not work. It's decorative, basically. and then he hears her coming, so he tries to get back into the room. He wheels himself in and he can't fit. So it's a very tense situation. I mean, obviously, I know how it goes, but the whole time you're wondering, is he going to make it? Is he not going to make it? Is she going to notice? You know, it's one of those things where it's just very high stakes. So Annie comes in, he has the box of pills on his lap, and he manages to tell her that, oh, I have to pee, you know, you left me for so long. Please go get the thing I use as my urinal and come back with my medicine, please, please, please. You know, I was being such a good patient. So she leaves, and he sneaks the boxes of medicine samples underneath his mattress. So he puts it under there so that she won't find it when she starts changing the bed sheets and stuff like that. So now we have this secret. Paul is able to be mobile. He is getting better, even though his body is all fucked up from this car accident, and her treatment of him is not exactly letting him heal properly. But yeah, so that's the first section. Have some